Fight and Talk back again. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Robbie Brown ahead of his professional debut on Cage Steel against Warren Mason. Robbie, thanks for taking time out tonight to talk to us, mate. I thought it'd be really good to get you on, and your story's a little bit different, I guess, in mixed martial arts. And so, how are you feeling? What, we're a few weeks out now?
Yeah. 4 weeks, I think it is. But I'm feeling good, feeling fitter. Can't wait now.
So if we do go back to the very start, so what was your route into mixed martial arts and how did you get started?
When I was about 12 or 13, I started boxing. I enjoyed it, but there was a MMA club close by, and the boxing gyms are like really stuck in the way, so you can't really train anywhere else. It's got to be like it's either you do or you don't. So I decided to go off to the MMA gym. And I thought it was like the bee's knees. I thought it was like really good people there. But obviously, I don't know how to put this without like discrediting them. Like I thought it was a good MMA gym, but later on, I started to realise it wasn't. We were just kickboxers. Like it's a really good kickboxing gym, don't get me wrong. But we were kickboxers trying to fight MMA. Like we learned was from YouTube, and there was a couple of guys in there that went to cinemas and they brought little things back, but not really enough to be having MMA fights. So basically, when I did have a fight, I had like 3-minute rounds to 9 minutes to get an armbar. That's all I knew, just arm bars and a triangle. Sometimes it worked. Most of the time, it never.
What was that like for you? I guess going into the cage, knowing that the fella standing opposite you has come from a sort of bona fide MMA gym. His ground game is going to be there, and it is going to be there more than yours. Was it a case of just trying to keep the fight standing, or was it one of them where you just sort of, well, if it goes to ground, I've got two things I can look for, and if it doesn't come off, let's see what happens?
Yeah. Well, I did want to keep it standing because obviously, like, naturally a kickboxer, so that's like kind of my bread and butter. But if you're looking at all my fights, I couldn't defend a takedown. I didn't know how to. I just get took down and I didn't know how to get back up. And obviously when I went to TFT, I was like a beginner there. I everything that I had been doing, I was doing incorrect. And I was just learning every single day, still learning now. But it was the best thing I ever done, move to TFT. Especially if I want to like have a good crack at being a professional fighter.
You did make the move to TFT. You are based in Hartlepool, though, so it's quite a distance for you to be travelling, 4, 5, 6 times a week. Why did you specifically decide on TFT?
All the pros go there, and obviously Paul Harper, who I used to train with, that's where he went, and he was having loads of success in the cage with his wrestling, and I knew that's what I needed to do. And the way I ended up there is I was going through a bit of an hard time with Paul. I just having a couple of beers, and he said, "I will sort yourself out. We'll go training." And so he took us up. At the time, I didn't have a car, and I started going up with him, and never looked back. Love it.
How important has that been then for your development? I mean, come April the 10th, I believe you'll be the 15th active pro fighter now in the gym, 15th, 16th. Like the depth of talent in there, it is really, really good. How important has it been for you to be getting in there? And like you say, when you first went, almost going back to, I guess, the first time you walked into a gym, being such a novice going in there. How important has it been for you to be training there, training regularly, in helping you develop as a fighter?
I think it's amazing. I mean, the guys who got in there, like obviously he was starting off with Phil, KSW champion, and then Fisher, Bellator, Louis, Perry, James, Cage Warriors. You know, it's the talent's second and none in there, so you're constantly learning. When I was at my old gym, there was only really me and like obviously Ricky, who used to help us out a lot. So there wasn't really any training partners. So the only training partners we had were kids. So that's probably why as well. You know, I thought it was really good because I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm beating everyone." No, you're beating kids, Robbie. So it's a big change. You know, it's opened my eyes a little bit. and it's an amazing gym, isn't it? I mean, you've been there yourself, and the talent's just second to none.
I know you've sort of had a difficult run, and I guess towards your amateur tenure, it was starting to get a little bit difficult to get you matched because you were stuck in this horrible position where if it was a day before weigh-in, you'd be doing flyweight, and then day of it'd be a bantamweight bout. But then you were also had over 20 pro bouts. I mean, if you go back and look at some of the earlier days sort of ones, maybe you wouldn't have taken them if you knew what you knew now. You know what I mean? You would have waited a little bit longer, but you do now have them on your record. What was that like for you towards the end of that amateur career, trying to get matched and trying to stay around your weight? I mean, I was looking to commentate on your bout with Kai Richmond where you moved up, nearly 20 pounds just so you could have that fight. How hard has it been for you to get them matches towards the end of your amateur career?
It's frustrating because my record as well, it's deceiving. I know there's a lot of losses on there, but a lot of them losses are when I wasn't actually an MMA fighter. I was just a kickboxer. A lot of the wins are as well. And then there's a chunk of them that actually isn't on Tapology. So
all right.
I think I've had 34 MMA fights in total, like all amateur. So I love the fight. I love like everything about it. And I'd love to live in Thailand and just fight every weekend. You know how they're doing. They've got records of like 280 and 80. Like imagine just being able to do it every weekend. I mean, my body probably wouldn't let me, but it'd be amazing. I just love to fight. Just love it.
What is it about fighting that you love so much?
It's a good question. I don't even know myself. I just enjoy it. I mean, you wouldn't think it on the day because of how nervous I get. I tell myself every time, right, this is the last time I'm doing it. I'm just going to train, and then a fight will come up like, Fisher, take that fight. So
you mentioned the nerves there. How do you sort of combat that? I mean, I know all fighters on fight day are different. You've got some buzzing around like you wouldn't even know they've got a fight in a few hours. You've got others who will sort of try and lock themselves away until it's just a few minutes before fight day. How do you combat them nerves when it comes to fight day?
if it's just I've done it that many times now. It's the same feeling. Well, I get the same feeling now as I did my first fight. You know, I feel nervous, I feel scared, and I feel I'm excited, and I think I'm going to punch his head, and then I'm like, well, if I don't, it's all like mixed emotions. But you learn to deal with them, and I know how I'm going to feel in my next fight, so it's the same every time. So you just learn to deal with them. Some people deal with them better than others. You know, it just depends.
If we look forward now then to your next fight, of course, on Cage Steel, we've got Dominic Gibbs coming on at the end of the week, and I mean, the protocols and everything they've put in place to make sure the show can go ahead is just staggering. You are facing Warren Mason, own one, I believe, as a pro. What do you make of that as a matchup for your entry into the professional ranks?
I think it's a really good fight because apart from me and Mukayev, he was the most experienced amateur. So there was me, who was the most experienced amateur in the UK, then Mukayev, and then Warren Mason. And he's only had one pro fight, and he fought Craig Skelton, and I fought Craig Skelton as an amateur and beat him. I think it might have been in the first round as well. So I'm hoping that's kind of in his head as well. But as far as like matchups concerned, I think it's a fair fight. Like there's ways he can win, there's ways I can win. I think it'll come down to who wants it most, who's worked harder.
I know you fought on last year during the lockdown. This again is going to be like your second fight almost in lockdown, but how good of a job do you think it is that Cage Steel have done to make sure this event goes ahead, to put the protocols in place, to make sure fighters, coaches, corners are safe, and ultimately to give the likes of yourself, who's not signed to a Cage Warriors or a Bellator yet, the opportunity to get out there and be fighting?
I think it's amazing, especially the fact that they're so fights, because they're putting on all these pro fights. They're giving us a little wage as well, so they're risking that, and if they don't sell the pay-per-views, then they don't make the money back, so they could be out of pocket as a start. And then the fact that they're doing it during a pandemic and giving us, you know, an opportunity to fight's amazing as well. I don't know how they're doing it or what they're doing to get it, you know, past government and all that rubbish, but they obviously know what they're doing, and they do. Don't even know what I'm saying there. Obviously, they do know what they're doing, and I don't think they'd try and put on a show if they thought, you know, that they couldn't do it. I know there's been a lot of putting on shows and then cancelling it, trying again, cancelling it. But I don't think it's going to happen with Cage Steel. Fingers crossed.
And Robbie, I mean, for you as well, you just mentioned there Mohammed Makhayev and yourself, Warren Mason, vastly experienced amateurs. There's always a lot made when somebody does make that transition to the professional ranks. How will their game come across with them? I know when Mohammed came across, there was a lot of talk about following his IMMAF success, how that transition had go, and he's sort of done it flawlessly. He's 4-0 now in the space of about 3 months, I think it was. How do you think your game's going to transition? I know it's something I've spoken to Ben Ellis about as well, and he'd said that for him, he couldn't wait to turn professional because the way he fights suits this 5 minutes, suits the change in rules a lot more than the amateurs did. How do you think that's going to play out for yourself?
Well, they're the same as Ben. I've always wanted to fight professional. It's been a dream of mine since I started fighting. And a lot of my amateur fights I've lost by decision being put on my back and managed to get up, you know, towards the end of the round. In a professional bout, you've got a little bit more time without losing the round. I mean, in an amateur fight, if you're on your back for a minute and a half, that's the round, you know, essentially gone. But you've got 2 extra minutes to work, and you can do more stuff from the bottom, you know, like your elbows, you know, to create some space to get yourself up. Do obviously a lot more damage with your elbows. I think it'll suit me more, and I'll enjoy it a little bit more as well, you know, with all the, well, I say all the rules, there's not much different, is there? There's elbows, 2 minutes, you know, different submissions, hooks, twists, things like that. I just hope I get the win. I'm going to enjoy it regardless. I think it'll be a fun fight. We'll see.
You say it is only 2 minutes difference, of course. 6 minutes across the 3 rounds. How were the first few rounds of getting used to them 5-minute rounds?
Oh, my first set of rounds. The second round, I got took down and I scooted me back to the cage and I looked at the clock and there was still like 2 minutes 40 left. Fucking hell. My last freshman rounds, I felt all right. I didn't look at the, obviously I was still so tired. But I seen improvements, and that's all I want each week. I want to get a little bit fitter, and I'll be happy.
How active are you looking to be this year? Of course, we don't know what's going to happen with COVID. We don't know when these restrictions are going to get lifted. But how active, ideally for you, between now and December of this year? How many fights do you want
to have? Maybe it's 2. This one and one towards the end of the year. I want to slow it down a bit. Now that it's pro, I mean, yeah, I had the mindset it doesn't matter. You know, get as many as you want, as many as you can. Sorry, get the experience in, you know, before you do turn over. But I'm going to slow it down a little bit and let Fisher, you know, sort me fights. I know that I kind of picked it with Warren because he commented on the Cage Steel post, and it's a fight I've wanted since amateur. I'll fight you. And then Danny obviously messaged Fisher, and that's how it got sorted. But yeah, I'm just going to slow it down and let Fisher sort it out. I do believe that he's in talks with somebody about a fight for me. It's kind of been verbally agreed. But we'll see.
What's your ultimate route then, or your ultimate goal? Where do you want to be, let's say, this time next year or by Christmas of 2021? Is there a certain route you want to be going? I mean, we know Cage Warriors is the route to the UFC. It's the proven route now. You've got Bellator possibly going to be coming back to Europe later on. You've got Brave, massive following over there at the minute. UAE Warriors taking across a load of Brits. What's your route? Or your desired route?
As far as like promotion, I don't really care as long as I get fights. My goal obviously we go now we go by the end of next year, so the end of 22, I want to be able to train full time, so not actually have a job. Well, if I have to do little bits and pieces, you know, to see me by, then I can. You know, I do a lot of building work, landscape and things like that. I do a lot with my girlfriends just to keep us going. So if I do have to do a little bits, I don't mind. But I want to be training on the morning, on the afternoon, on the night, and you know, I just want to have a really good crack at it. I don't want to just do it half-hearted. I want to put, you know, 110% in it. and have a really good go and just see where it takes me. I mean, if Cage Warriors end up wanting me, I'll go there. Just see what I get offered.
How difficult is that then to juggle working full time and trying to train?
Well, when I'm in camp, I try and get a couple of runs in a week. So I'll do a 10k, 6k, and then on the Sunday I do my sprints. But I start work at 7:30. So it's like getting in before then I get in at like 4, 4:30, and then because I obviously travel to train, I've got to set off at 5:00. So it's just non-stop, and then I've got the burn as well. So when I get in, I've got to see the burn for an hour before I go to sleep. It's just I just want to be able to take my time, train in the morning, come home, spend a few hours, go train again, come home, spend a few hours, go train again. That's what I want. That's my ideal life.
How much added motivation has the birth of Cody given you? I know you had a lot of posts across your social media when he was first born with his little boxing gloves on and everything like that. But what added motivation does that give you now to really have a good crack at this and really make the most of your pro career?
Yeah, I want to do well, because when he's older, it'll be something, even if he doesn't, I'd love him to get into fighting. But if he doesn't, and then he can look, oh, my dad was a professional fighter, he fought this, or he'd be able to watch the fights and he'd be like, wow, that's a min fight, when he's a little bit older. So yeah, I'd like to do well for him as well. And I mean, if I do end up having a good crack and making it to a big stage, and we're getting some decent money in, I know that it's very few and far between that do get paid a hell of a lot. But it will be nice, to get some big bucks in and be able to give them a good life. But it's very few and far between that get to do that in MMA.
Finally, Robbie, I won't take up too much more of your time. If people are wanting to buy and watch your pay-per-view, how can they get hold of your link, or where have you got that? I've
got my Facebook page and Instagram bio, or you can go to Cage Steel, the website, and get it from there. At the moment, it's £10. They did say that they're going to climb, so it will be best to get in now. A lot of my friends and family tend to buy even tickets, in the last week or two. They don't tend to buy it, a couple of weeks out. So that tends to be what happens, but we'll see.
Perfect. Robbie, thank you very much for your time, mate.
Thanks for yours as well, mate. Nice.